So what we've covered so far in this chapter 15 up to verse number 5, here Krishna has described uh, the, the world by using the allegory of a tree. So the three things we must understand, what Krishna is trying to describe in chapter 15 is what the Upanishads are also telling us. That is, knowledge of the jiva, the individual soul, knowledge of the world, jagat, and knowledge of Brahman, the supreme consciousness. So jiva, jagat, Brahman is the knowledge that Krishna is trying to relay by using an example of a tree. The tree represents the jagat, the entire world. And what is the main components of the tree? First thing that Krishna talks about is urdhva moolam, the root which is on top. So what we have understood when we say root on top is not to be taken literally or physically. Root on top refers to the very cause of this tree. That is the root which is below the ground. We can't see it, but that root below the ground is the cause of the tree and it is the nourishment of the tree. So similarly, this root refers to Brahman, the supreme consciousness, whom we cannot see, who is unmanifest, but is the very cause of this whole creation. And then Krishna spoke about the branches. Some of the branches are up and some of the branches are down. The upward branches reflect the Swarga Lokas, the six Swarga Lokas. The middle branch represents Bhuloka, where we are now existing. And the lower branches, 7 of them, reflect the Naraka Loka. So up and down must not be taken physically, but it must be taken as higher lokas and lower lokas. And then Krishna spoke about the twigs on a tree. So if you think about the twigs on a tree, every branch has a twig. And at the end of the twig is either a fruit or a flower. So in the same way, Krishna is saying that the gunas of each individual person, depending on what gunas you have, the gunas will drive your actions. And the actions will in turn will become your karma phalam. So gunas become karma, karma becomes karma phalam, and karma phalam results in what? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So if you go back to chapter 14, verse number 14, chapter 14, verse 14, page 262, there Krishna mentioned what happens in verse 14 and 15, what happens when a person dies in sattvic guna mode, or in rajasic guna, or in tamasic guna. So in verse 14, chapter 14, he said, when a person meets his end with the prevalence of sattva, when sattva is dominant in any person, he obtains the places of higher merit, meaning the higher lokas. The next verse says, meeting his death during the prevalence of rajas, he is born in karma bhumi or bhuloka, as we call it. And those who die with the prevalence of tamas are born in deluded wombs, meaning the lower lokas. So our gunas drive our actions. Actions create karma phalam. Karma phalam takes us either higher loka, lower loka, or brings us back to earth. So what does it mean here? It means that just like the roots of a tree which are below, the multiple roots of a tree which are below the ground, they hold what we call the tree firmly to the ground. In the same manner, our actions will keep us bound to this earth, repeated births. And these are very strong bondage because every action driven by guna creates a strong bondage. So he says, what is it that keeps this world revolving? Why does the world need to go on revolving through sattva, what we call through Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga? Why does the world need to go on and on? For the very fact, because as long as human beings perform actions driven by the gunas, we will continue to be caught in this cycle of birth and death. So the world has got to go through creation, preservation, dissolution, and then come back again into creation because of our unexhausted karmas and our actions. So he told us a problem, therefore. So who is the wise one? If you look at chapter 15, verse 1, the last line, he said, Yas tam veda saha vedavid. Who is the wise one? Vedavid means the one who is equipped with knowledge. And he is the wise one because he truly understands the temporary nature of this world. He understands that behind the temporary nature of this world is the permanent Brahman, and that should be my goal. So then Krishna starts to explain to us in the verses 3, 4, and 5 the sadhanas that we have to go through. If we are serious about attaining this highest goal, that means being one with Brahman, to attain moksha, to put it in simple terms, then what are the sadhanas? So the first sadhana he told us was what? Vairagya or detachment. What is detachment? Detachment doesn't mean you cannot own anything. Very careful. Huh? Detachment does not mean you should not own anything. Detachment means nothing should own you. What do we mean by that? It means that we are so preoccupied with constantly chasing after material and sensual desires that the minute we don't get them, it disturbs us. We spend our whole lives running after these material and sensual desires. So as a result, it occupies our mental, what we call our mental capacity. It occupies our time. We are chasing. So what Krishna says, do not depend on the material and sensual enjoyments for your happiness. Slowly try to detach. Why should we detach? Because those are all temporary. They are not going to give you permanent happiness. So it is only the wise one who understands this and slowly reduces chasing after material and sensual desires. So that is the first sadhana. Reduce your dependence on the world. Second sadhana is what? Having detached from the world, you must not keep your mind inactive or empty. So he says the second sadhana is called mumukshutvam. You must strive for the higher goal. So detach from the lower, attach to the higher. So this is a continuous process. Attached to the higher means you go through all the sadhanas of karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, etc. You go through all that. Strive for the highest goal. And then what was the third sadhana? Saranagati. You must surrender to the Lord. Why must we surrender? Because on our spiritual path, while we are striving for the highest goal, there will be many obstacles in our lives. The obstacles are not going to go away just because tomorrow you suddenly become a spiritual person, you go to temple, you pray, you go for Gita class. Problems are not going to go away. But by surrendering to the Lord, it becomes your very anchor to face all kinds of situations in life. So surrender is very important for us as a sadhana also to follow. And finally, he gave us 6 what we call qualities to follow. And of course, we've gone through all this. So they are the very basic qualities of not having ego, of daily studying the scriptures, and so forth and so forth. Very basic, what we call advice for us to follow. Now, if we do all this, as Krishna has advised in verse 3, 4, and 5, if we do this, what did Krishna say? Gachantya amuda padam avyayam tat. That amuda, the undiluted person, muda is a deluded person. Amuda means one who is woken up from the state of delusion, understands that what is the highest goal to be pursued, and by following the sadhanas as given by Krishna in verses 3, 4, and 5, he will then attain what? That padam, that goal. Padam means that goal. So then, of course, the next question we will ask ourselves, what is that goal? Can somebody identify that goal? So at least I know what is that goal which I'm striving for. So that brings us to our very verse of today, verse number 6. Again, a lot of these verses which you find in chapter 15, we must not take the literal meaning. They've got very deep meaning, a lot of allegorical meanings. And this particular verse, also verse number 6, as a similar verse in the Katha Upanishad, which I will also explain to you. It's almost similar to this verse. So that's why chapter 15 is said to be the very essence of the Upanishads. So what does this verse say? This verse number 6 is going to describe to us what is that goal that we should all strive for, that we should, if we are serious about moksha. If you're not serious, then it's okay. Then you strive for your worldly goals. But if you're woken up to a higher possibility, to a higher goal, then what is that goal? You must also understand. So first of all, in verse number 6, if we look at the very last line of the Sanskrit text, let me just get the notes. Verse number 6. Okay, if we just look at the last line of the Sanskrit text number 6, Krishna says, Tad mama dhamma. So remember verse 5, he talked about dhamma, that goal, that padam. So now Krishna is saying, Tad, that mama is my dhamma, that is my home, that is my abode. So Krishna is going to identify for us that where is his abode, where is his home. And he says that home is paramam, it is the most highest goal. Meaning what? Beyond that, there is nothing already. If you can reach that goal for a spiritual seeker, that is the highest goal. There is nothing beyond that for you to reach. So it's giving you that ultimate goal to reach. Tat dhamma paramam mama. It is my abode and it is the highest goal. Now, what is that goal? So first of all, we must understand, who are we trying to describe in verse number 6? Or who is Krishna trying to describe in number 6? Who is he trying? That goal means who? Who is he trying to describe? The self, or you can say Brahman, is one and the same. What he's telling us is trying to describe to us who is Brahman, where is Brahman. But now you realize the biggest problem. When you try to describe Brahman, what is the biggest problem? What is the biggest problem in trying to describe Brahman? Why can't you describe him? He's formless. He's got no shape. He's got no size. He's got no color. He's got no taste. Right? So how do you describe such a thing? If I ask you to describe a mango, you can easily describe it because it has got a form. You can touch it, you can eat it, you can taste it. But Brahman is beyond all senses. So Adi Sankaracharya, in his commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad, he says why we cannot describe Brahman, because Brahman is devoid of these 5 factors. Now I've sent to you in your notes today the 5 qualities. If Brahman has any of these 5 qualities, you can easily describe him. But Brahman is devoid of all these 5 qualities. What are they? Jāti. Okay. Jāti means a class or a species. Okay. Example, we take a cow, the cow species. We can say this belongs to the cow species because it has particular characteristics, right? You cannot mix up a cow with a dog. A dog has different characteristics. So it can be identified with as long as it has a common characteristics. That is called Jāti. Second is called Guṇa. Guṇa means quality. So example, red flower. We can describe the flower is red. It has got a particular color. It has got a particular fragrance. But Brahman doesn't have a color. Brahman doesn't have a fragrance. Third is Kriyā, meaning function. Function means supposing I'm a speaker, you can say the speaker is so and so. You can describe a person by his function or by his action. He's an engineer, he's a doctor, etc., etc. Okay. Again, what work has Brahman got to do? Brahman has no work actually, right? He created the world and that's it. Now it's up to you what you're going to do with his creation. Next is sambandham. Sambandham means relationship. So when two people have a relationship, teacher, student, father, son, mother, daughter, etc., I can describe that. By relationship, I can describe. And the last one is called Ruri. Ruri means by convention. What do we mean by convention? If somebody's name is Mahesh, we all know him as Mahesh. So I can tell you that fellow Mahesh came that day to my house. You know specifically who I'm talking about. So that's called Ruri or convention. But again, Brahman also actually is got known. He's known by Brahman, but we don't know what does Brahman stand for. If I tell you Brahman, I saw Brahman, I cannot describe to you what is Brahman, right? So now the challenge comes how to describe something that has got no form, shape, size, color, taste, etc. Okay. And to give an example, Brahman energizes our senses to experience the world, isn't it? Without that Atman or that Brahman, you cannot experience the world. So Brahman is the one that enables your senses to experience the world. So it is like you take a camera, you take a photo of a scenery. You can see the full scenery, but what can you not see in the photo? You take a camera, you take a photo of a beautiful sunrise. You see the photo has got beautiful sunrise. What you cannot see in the photo? Huh? You can't see the camera, you can't see yourself. That means the one who is causing the experience cannot be seen. So Brahman is causing your experience. You can experience everything because of Brahman, but you cannot see Brahman. Do you understand? So now all these challenges are there. Now, how do you describe? So in chapter 13, if you remember, how was Brahman described? By two examples. One was light, effulgence, and one was space. So if you understand effulgence, you understand Brahman. You understand space, you understand Brahman. Okay, we went through that in chapter 13. So now Lord says, Tad Dhamma Parama Mama, that is my highest, that is my home, that is the highest goal. Okay, if I reach there, what happens, Lord? He says, Yad Gatva, third line you see. Yad Gatva, when you attain that goal, Yad Gatva, Na Nivartante, you don't have to come back. Meaning what? Meaning, if you want to escape the cycle of birth and deaths, you don't go to Swarga Loka. Swarga Loka will still bring you back here. Naraka Loka, of course, nobody wants to go. You will have to come back here. So you have to go beyond all this. That is the goal which you will not then come back for another birth. Now, what is that goal? So now he describes it. He says, go back to the first line. What is my home? What is my abode? Na tad bhasayate suryo. First line. That place where na bhasayate suryo, where the surya or the sun doesn't shine. So my home, supposing now I'm describing to you my home. Come to my home. He said, can you please describe your home? My home is there where there's no sunshine. Sun doesn't shine there. Somehow what? Na shashanko. Even night you come, the moon also doesn't shine there. So daytime there's no sun, nighttime there's no moon. Okay, what else? Na pavaka. Pavaka means fire. Even fire doesn't shine there. Now would you want to go to a place like that? If I tell you come to my house, morning no sunshine, night no sunlight, in darkness you come, there's no light at all, no electricity in the house. Would you want to come to such a place? So next week nobody going to come back. So why would I want to go to such a place? But this is
so much light there.
Correct.
These lines are not.
Correct. So we must never read these verses, what you call, sorry? Literally, yes, that's the word. You mustn't read these words literally. What it means is that Lord's home is so, he himself is so effulgent that whatever sunlight is there cannot beat his effulgence. Whatever moonlight is there cannot beat his effulgence. Whatever fire is there, it cannot beat his effulgence. It's like we take a candle and we go out in the daylight and we try to shine a candle and try to see the sun. Sun is so effulgent, you can't even see the glow of your candle also. So now let us understand. Therefore, when he says you reach my home, you won't come back. Where is this home now? Because it looks to us like it's some physical journey. I got to travel somewhere, Then there is his place somewhere. He's sitting there. So much of effulgence. When I meet him, maybe I have to wear Ray-Ban sunglasses because so much of effulgence. But I won't come back. So again, it is not a physical place because we have understood that Brahman is everywhere, all pervading, all consciousness, all pervading. So what does this word Dhamma, what does this word home mean? What is he trying to tell us? That is my home. But actually you don't have a home. Your home is, the whole creation is your home. So what is this Dhamma, this home that he's trying to tell us? What does it mean? Because it's not a physical place. So what does it mean then?
This is something like beyond the locals in terms of.
Yeah, so is it a place somewhere? Like we say Vaikunta Loka, or what is the other, what do you call, other holy places they say, God resides in Vaikunta Loka, this Loka, that Loka. But this is not a place because God is everywhere.
It's also not places, right?
There are places.
Places of this dimension.
There are dimensions, okay, but then is God in sitting somewhere there where we have to, in a particular dimension, that we have to go there and see him? So this word Dhamma, we must understand. What is this word Dhamma therefore? If it is not a physical place, then what is this Dhamma? You're quite close to the answer. Dhamma means his very nature. His very nature. What is God's or Brahman's very nature? Huh? Okay, some more, what else? The Upanishads give us three natures of the Lord. Sat, Chit, Ananda. That is his nature. That is the Dhamma that he's talking about. When you reach this place, you will have the same nature as Brahman. That is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means consciousness. Sat means truth or reality. Chit is consciousness. Anandam is total bliss, extreme bliss. You will be, that means it's not after you die and go there. Because remember, the first state is called Jivan Mukta. You can reach this state while you are alive. You are in that state of Satchit Ananda while you are alive. Everything that is going on in your life doesn't affect you at all. You are in the state of Satchit Ananda. And then, of course, upon death, then you go to that higher state, which we are going to look at the next verses. And then you don't come back. Huh? Which?
You can reach this
Who is that you? That will be explained in verses 7, 8, and 9. Who is this you that is going to reach this state? Okay. So, as I said, this verse is very allegorical. Don't take it for the direct meaning. It means that you can strive for that goal. And when you reach that goal, you reach that state of Satchit Ananda. While living, you have already reached that state of Brahman. After this body falls, there's no more return back to this cycle of birth and death. And there's this exactly the same verse given in the Katha Upanishads that goes like this. Na tatra suryo bhati. There where the Surya, the sun, doesn't shine. Na Chandra. Neither does the moon shine there. Na tarakam. Tarakam means stars. The stars also don't shine there. Nema vidyuto bhanti. Even the flashes of lightning cannot shine there. Kutoyam agnihi. What more to speak about Agni, the fire? When the great effulgence of the sun, the moon, and the lightning strikes cannot reach there, what more to speak of the little fire? And then he says, O Lord, tam eva bantam anubhati sarvam. O Lord, you are the very source of all the lights in this world. Tasya bhasha sarvam idam vibhati. Because of your effulgence, everything shines in this world. So everything that you see that is shining, the source is Brahman himself. And this particular prayer, in the traditional temples in India, the deity is kept in a dark sanctum. And only morning and evening when they do that arati, they recite this prayer when they show the light on the deity which is in the darkness. And only when you're lighting the light, then can you see the deity. So the effulgence all comes from Lord. But imagine what we are doing. We are taking the little arti and trying to show to the Lord. But who is the source of this little lamp here? It is the Lord himself. So we must understand that reaching that state of no return means that we have attained the state of Satchit Ananda also. And if you recall in chapter 11, verse 12 also, when Krishna revealed his universal form, what was the description? As though 1,000 suns are blazing in the sky simultaneously. That is the effulgence of the Lord there. So you can imagine as though 1,000 suns are blazing in the sky at the same time. Okay, that is his effulgence. So the Lord says, that is my goal. And if you reach there, you reach that state of Satchit Ananda while living, then upon death, there is no more return to this world. Now, there is also another allegorical way of looking at this also. What is the allegorical way of looking at it? Sun or Aditya is the giver of light, right? So, this sun is known as the deva of our senses. All our senses have devas. So, the eyes have deva, ears have deva, meaning all this sun represents all our senses. Okay? Now, moon is the deity, so sun is the deity of the senses. Moon is the deity of what? Inners. You know, they say when there's a full moon, at some places people go a bit haywire a bit, Correct or not? Lunatic. So, moon reflects our mind. So, sun reflects our senses. Moon is the deity of the mind. And fire is the deity of what? Fire is the deity of what? Speech. They say fiery speech. He gave a fiery speech. Fire represents our speech. So what he's saying now here, now we can apply it in a different way. Where the sun doesn't shine, where the moon doesn't shine, where the fire doesn't shine, means what? Your senses cannot describe it. Your mind can't even think of such a thing. And your speech can't even describe such a thing. That is where Brahman is. It's beyond all that. So there is a famous saying. It's called Ati Indriya Vishaya Veda Pramanam. Ati Indriya. Indriya means senses. Ati Indriya means that which is beyond your senses, which your senses cannot even describe, because there's no form, no shape, no size, no color. So Ati Indriya Vishaya, meaning an object that your senses is beyond your senses, they cannot be described by any of your five senses. How do you know about that object? Veda Pramanam. The only way to know, Pramanam, to know, is through Veda. Veda here means knowledge. So only knowledge can help us to understand the beauty of this Brahman. What is Brahman? That is my ultimate goal. So this is something we have to strive for also to attain that. Now, verse 6 tells us where is the goal, where we have to strive. If we reach that, we don't come back. Now that is the good news. Now comes the bad news. What is the bad news? In verse 7, 8 and 9, who are the people who have to come back? And this is very important for us to understand, because many a time we always make the mistake and say, oh, Atman has gone. Don't you all say that? When the person dies, what do you all say? Oh, Atman is gone already. His soul is gone. But how can the Atman go? Can the Atman leave the body? Huh? Can or cannot? Huh? Can. Can or cannot? Cannot be both. La. See, can also, cannot also. Oh, Atman get confusing. Atman is all pervading, like space. So, can you move space from here to there? So, Atman is all pervading, all consciousness. You can't move. So, upon death, what happens then? Who leaves? People say he's no more. He is no more, the body is no more. But actually, what has happened? So, verses 7, 8, and 9, beautiful explanation of what happens upon death also. Okay. And this tells us the difference between Jiva, which is the traveling soul, and Atman, which is the all-pervading soul. We must understand the difference between Jiva, the traveling soul, and Atman, the all-pervading soul. Okay. So now, let us try to understand this. So first of all, we have to understand we have the three bodies, right? That is the gross body, which is called Stula Sharira. Okay, gross body. What happens at the time of death? What do you do with the Stula Sharira? We cremate it. Okay. In fact, we get very philosophical when time comes for that now. So Stula Sharira. Then behind the Stula Sharira, you have that subtle body which is called Sukshma Sharira, which is the mind, intellect, etc. Now here, don't think mind, intellect means your brain and all that, It is a very subtle, that's why it's called subtle body. And then more subtle than that is the, Karana Sharira, which is your vasanas, your karmas and all that. So now let us understand what happens here. The Lord says here first, Mama eva ansa jiva loke. Jiva, now the word is here, jiva loke. In this world, where all the jivas are living, jivas here again means humans, birds, animals, insects, all are jivas, okay? We'll understand what you mean by jiva. Okay, to give you a more easier example to understand, think about a pot with water in it, and you place 100 pots on the ground, okay? Sun is shining, one sun is shining. When it shines on the 100 pots of water, how many reflected suns do you see? 100, right? Now, sun is Brahman, sun is Atman. The reflected sun in the water, the 100, that is Jiva. Okay, now you understand? So a reflection of that Brahman, he's saying, Mama answer means a part of me is in this Jiva Loke. Meaning my reflection is in this Jiva Loke. Brahman is there, one sun, but because there is pot and there is water, there is reflection. What does a pot represent? The body. What does the water represent? The water. The reflected soul is the reflection of the sun. What does the water represent? The water can represent the what you call the Sukshma Sharira and the Karana Sharira. Okay? As long as it is there, there's reflection. Now, what is moksha therefore? What is moksha? You throw the water out of the pot. Do you see reflection? Where has the sun gone now? There is only one sun. But because as long as there exists the mind, intellect, and Karana Sharira, the reflection will always be there. So the Lord is saying, Mama eva ansa jiva loke. In this jiva loka, my reflection or portion of me exists there in the jiva loka. Okay? And therefore, he says, it has become a jiva, jiva bhuta. It has become a jiva. Okay? Now, when this reflection enters into the body, it first reflects into the mind. So the first thing that is energized is the mind. The minute the mind is energized, it energizes the whole body. So this jiva comes alive now. And what does this jiva say? Does the jiva say, Aham Brahma Asmi? What does this jiva say? Now we are all jivas. Okay, we have taken birth now. Immediately, what do we say? I am the body. We straight away identify with the body. We forget our relationship that we are part and parcel of that supreme consciousness. So he says this Jiva Bhuta is also Sanatana. It is eternal. Why? Because as long as the sun is eternal, as long as there are these reflected pots, there are pots and water, the reflection of the Jiva will always be there. It is eternal. Okay. The Sukshma Sharira, the Karana Sharira, and the reflection. That is the Jiva. So again, what is Jiva? Jiva is Sukshma Sharira plus Karana Sharira plus the reflection. These three constitute the Jiva. Okay. Now what happens? He says, what is the Jiva's function now in this world? Indriyani, the senses, all the five senses, the nose, the ears, skin, tongue, Manashastani, and mind being the sixth sense. So you have the mind plus the five senses. Prakriti Stani, they abide in Prakriti. Prakriti meaning this whole body and the whole creation. So the Jiva is there, enlivening the mind, enlivening the senses. Okay. Now the question is, what does it do? It karshati, it draws itself. Okay. It draws itself with the body, mind, equipment. Now I'll explain to you. If we go on to the next verse, we will understand this a bit more. Okay. Let's go on to the next verse. You see, first of all, when death occurs in this body, what does the reflected consciousness or the jiva, let's use the word jiva, what does the jiva do? In the next verse 8, it explains this very clearly. It says, when jiva takes up a body and when he leaves it, he leaves taking the senses and the mind with it. So now, imagine death has occurred, the gross body is there, subtle body is there, causal body is there, jiva is there. Okay? Clear so far? Now death occurs, what do we do with the gross body? We cremate it. So what does the jiva do? Just like if you were to move from one house to another house, what do? You start packing all your things, right? So the jiva will start packing his bag also. What is in his traveling bag? Senses are there, mind is there. Okay, again, be very careful. Senses doesn't mean your eyes are packed inside, your ears are packed inside. It is the power behind your eyes, the power behind your ears. So that's why you cannot, at the time of death, you cannot see the jiva leaving, you can't see the senses leaving. Why? Because they're all subtle. So now death has occurred, jiva packs everything, he takes it away from the body. Then what does he do? Based on the karana sharira, based on your karmas, based on your vasanas, he will have to find another suitable place to occupy. So the minute he occupies a new gross body, what does he do? If you move to a new house, you will unpack and you take out everything and deposit back there again. And then that thing comes alive again. So that is the whole circle that goes on and on and on. Okay? Again, Atman doesn't move, Brahman doesn't move, Jiva is the traveling soul. What is the jiva? The reflected consciousness. Okay. So now the next verse he says there, when, now the word Ishvara is used there. So be very careful. The word Ishvara there does not mean God or Lord. Here the word Ishvara means the master who is controlling all the senses, the mind is the one who's taking everything and depositing in the new body. So here Ishvara refers to the jiva itself. Okay. He says the jiva utkramati shariram. Utkramati means when he leaves this shariram, when he leaves this gross body, and avapnoti, when he assumes a new body, what does he do? He takes all the mind and the senses from the earlier body and deposits it into the new body also. Okay. Now he helps us to understand this by using a simple allegory again. What is that allegory here? He uses the allegory of Eva, just like Vayu, the wind, how the wind carries the gandha. Gandha means the fragrance of the flower asayat, from the receptacles of the flower. So think now, the flower has got a fragrance. The wind comes and blows the flower. It carries the fragrance from one space to another space. Okay. Now, what does the flower represent? What does the wind represent? What does the fragrance represent? Three allegories are given: wind, fragrance, and the receptacles of the flower. So, what do the receptacles represent? What does
It's the body.
is the body? Okay, very good. Is the stula sharira? Okay, very good. Then
The senses and the mind.
the subtle body, that is the fragrance. And then the wind, jiva, exactly. So you see how beautifully he describes it now. You cannot see, can you see the fragrance moving? You cannot see the fragrance moving. In the same way, you cannot see the subtle body and the causal body moving. But just like the wind blows the fragrance from one place to another place, that's how the jiva also functions. Moves all the fragrance here, meaning the subtle and the causal body, he moves it to the another place and unpacks it there. So he's given us a simple allegory also to understand. And that's why we cannot see when the jiva leaves, when the subtle body leaves, when the causal body leaves, we can't see all that. Okay. Now we come to verse number 9. Okay. So what happens when he occupies, now the jiva occupies a new body? What does he do? It's explained in verse number 9. Ayam here refers to the jiva. Upasevate, he enjoys the vishayan, the sense objects. So, because he enlivens all the senses and the body comes alive, the new body comes alive with all the senses, the mind enlivened, now the jiva again gets entangled in this new body and identifies with this new body and goes about enjoying his life again. Again, forgetting his relationship with the Lord. So again, driven by the sattvic gunas, the rajasic gunas, the tamasic gunas, the jiva carries on with a new body, all with the same, what we call the errors that were made in the past life, now again come back to the new life and start making the same errors again and again. So, and what are the senses that it enlivens? And it experiences the world through these senses. What are they? Strotram, which means the ear; chakshu, the eyes; sprashanam, which is the skin. So, ears will experience sound; chakshu, the eyes will experience form; sprashanam, the skin will experience touch; rasanam, the tongue will experience taste; and grahanam will experience the smells. Okay, and he also adds here one more, the manas, also the mind. So the jiva enlivens all this, and through this equipment, he experiences the whole world. Okay. So the jiva gets entangled and goes through again the same thing: pleasure, pain, joy, sorrow, victory, defeat. It goes through again and again the same thing also. Okay. So that brings us now to verse number 10. Yes. Atman, okay, it's just like saying Atman is like Brahman, it's just a weakness in the body. Atman is there because it's all pervading, right? So it's in everything in creation. So it is there, it exists as the weakness. What is the exact function of the Atman is explained in chapter 9. Chapter 9, verse number. Is it chapter 9? No, sorry, I think it was chapter 13. Chapter 13. Yeah, okay. Chapter 13, verse 22. Page 250. See, the soul in this body is the witness, the guide, the sustainer, the experiencer, the great Lord, and the Supreme Self. That is the Atman in this body. Okay. So that describes the nature and the function of the Atman. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't influence any action. It's there just as a as a weakness. Okay, clear?
The light, the body comes
From the Atman and also the reflected consciousness. Okay, because both are actually the Atman is Brahman. So the minute there's a reflected consciousness in the body comes alive. There must be a medium for the body to see. That's why if the reflected consciousness is in a tree, the tree doesn't function. If that reflected consciousness is in a rock, the rock doesn't function. Why? Because the subtle body is not there. Or either it is very, what they say, not developed. So it cannot express through that. So although it's there, the jiva is there, but it doesn't have a medium of expression.
So we can say that the Atman only function, the Atman of the body is the light.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. Because anyway, it all comes from Brahman. We only call it Atman because it is situated in the body. From standpoint of location, we call it Atman. When it's all pervading, we call it Brahman. Okay, that's only. But actually, there's no difference between Atman and Brahman. Okay, right?
So then the moksha, when you say that stop from this problem,
Right.
then moksha, but
Moksha can only come when we realize that we are not this body. The minute we detach ourselves from this body and understand that we are the Atman, the weakness in this body, then only a stage, the process for moksha starts from there. So through knowledge first, we have to understand that we are not this temporary body, we are the eternal soul. So once we start identifying with the eternal soul, we don't get affected by what is happening to this body and to the environment around us. And then will come the realization by meditation. So finally, in the end, you got to come to meditation also to connect to that consciousness and reach the state of Satchit Ananda. Okay, so that's why the four what we call practices or sadhanas, karma yoga sadhana must be together with bhakti yoga, together with jnana yoga, and finally come to dhyana yoga, meditation. Okay, all these four sadhanas must be practiced. Okay,
Vedas tell us exactly when jiva moves to the body.
exactly when.
Or is it just like turn up to the
I'm not sure about that. I mean, you're talking about the exact time. That means when. So you're saying that the child is in the womb, and when does the jiva actually come in? I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I mean, don't know what is the right time, but they say there is a particular, even when they want to abort the fetus, they won't do it after a certain, because they say before that there is no life actually. So, huh? The fifth month, is it? So it could be that, but I don't know again whether what do the scriptures say exactly when the jiva comes into that fetus, right? I'm not sure. Okay.
But when you woke up, you're scared.
Huh.
Heart is beating at a very early stage.
Even from the first month itself.
Maybe the second month. or so,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
That means the
Yeah,
jiva
that means the jiva is there, because how would the heart be beating without the presence of the jiva? It is the jiva that gives life to everything. So it's possible that it's already there. Okay. So now we come on to verse number 10. Okay. So in verse number 10, now he talks about who will therefore get moksha and who will not get moksha. Okay. So he says there are two aspects now in this creation. So he says Utkramantam, when the jiva is leaving the present body. You see, when we see some, we experience death in our family or something like that, that's when we start questioning, isn't it? We start questioning, what is life all about? I should change my life now. I don't want to end up like this, and so forth and so forth. So it awakens in us something. Is there something beyond life and death? Is there something beyond this human birth? We start questioning, especially when you see people in hospital, or when we go and visit these death ceremonies and all that. But then what happens on the next day? Huh? We forget everything. We got our appointments. We get. Then until the next time again it happens, again we start speculating. So we never question that, where is this life coming from? How did this life come about? You know. So there is lack of understanding, and also we are so engrossed in our work, our daily life, our business, social commitments. We forget about all this. But here he's saying, Utkramantam, when the jiva is leaving the present body, Stitam api, when it is residing in a new body, or Bunjanam, when we are experiencing all the world. Now we are experiencing the world. Do we ever question, what is it that is enlivening my senses to experience? So although I have a ear, I have a nose, etc., but where is all this life coming from? Why some things have life, some things have no life? So we don't start to question all these things. So he says, and then when we go through all these various experiences, happy, sad, victory, defeat, we don't start to think deeper, like, why are we going through all these experiences? At the most, what do we do when we go through difficult times? Either we start praying, or we blame God for it, isn't it? But to understand all these things about life, death, etc., senses, consciousness, we don't question further. So he says, Vimuda. Vimuda here means the one who is devoid of discrimination. So there is a Muda. Muda is only at master level. No? Then you have Vimuda, which means you are PhD level already. You are more worse than a Muda. Totally deluded person. Who is a Vimuda? A Vimuda is one who does not at all question about life, does not at all question about anything at all. He is so engrossed in his material and sensual pleasures, Vimuda. So here he says, Vimuda, the one who is devoid of discrimination, na anupashyati. So pashyati means to see. But here we must not again take the literal meaning see. Anupashyati means unable to understand all these facts, unable to grasp the knowledge of what is life all about. Okay, who lacks all this, what we call discrimination, powers of discrimination. He sees death all around, he sees birth, he sees death, but he doesn't question. So these are the people who just go about life driven by their material and sensual desires and carry on life. But on the other hand, the Lord says, there are another group of people who are Jnana Chakshu. So very beautiful word. Chakshu means eye. Jnana means wisdom. So Jnana Chakshu means what? Eye of wisdom. What do you mean by Jnana Chakshu? Meaning one who reads the scriptures, one who what we call analyzes the scriptures, one who reflects on the words of the scriptures. So this Jnana Chakshu, he says Pashyanti, he sees. Again, sees doesn't mean physically sees, but mentally, intellectually, he understands this whole process about birth and death and etc. So these are the people who will attain moksha eventually. So it requires us to change our lifestyle, get away from just pursuing material and sensual desires, read the scriptures, understand, analyze, and reflect on the words of the scriptures. Okay. So we will come back next week and carry on. And just two announcements to make. Next week we have some special prayers in the hall. So we need to start the class earlier at 4 o'clock instead of 4:30. So please take note, only for next Saturday, 4 o'clock. And then the following Saturday, we have the full meditation classes here. So I'll request all of you, if you can make it, please come in the morning. It's from 8 to 1. And the person who's teaching the meditation is called Soham meditation. So means, Saha means the consciousness. Ham means I am that consciousness. So it's a very systematic, Brother James will take us through a very, what you call program and systematic way of practicing meditation. Okay, I've known Brother James for more than 20 years, so he's a very dedicated practitioner. So if you can come on that following Saturday morning to afternoon session. There's a 30 ringgit registration fee, and try to come. So for that day, we won't have a class, okay? Right? So please take note. Next Saturday, we start at 4. Following Saturday, there's no class. Okay, we end with the prayer. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru.